So Greg and Keith, thanks so much for joining us for the latest edition of Office Hours for HeroesX. Keith, thanks for joining us.
Oh yeah, it's a pleasure as always. Thanks for organizing.
And Greg, thanks for joining us and having
Claudia,
us. Yeah.
thank you so much for having us.
So we're joining our community today, recording from your office at Harvard University.
My crowded little office.
Yeah,
yes.
it's lovely. So we're surrounded by beautiful books, by blackboards with beautiful words, beautiful paintings, and we're going to have a discussion today about a few things. The first one is the Hour 12 hourly discussion question. And in that question, Greg, here's what you asked. You said, in the Garden of Laertes, Odysseus tests his father. What is the point of this testing?
And you know why I said that?
No, yeah, exactly why.
because it seems so cruel and heartless. The game has been won, and he goes to this garden. He sees this sad old man, and then he tells a story that makes the old man think that Odysseus has died. What's the point?
Right. So what is the point? I mean, what were you thinking, Keith? Or do you want to talk about some of the responses that we had? I mean, we could talk about some of the ways that our community members approached it.
Oh well, we could take either tack. But I mean, my answer is easiest.
Go for it.
I mean, and I'm always thinking about the medium. The point of
That's
it. As you know, the first thought that I have about the point of it is that it is kind of a sign for the Greeks who are telling and hearing this story about how important it is to recognize the hero. It's a little model for being in touch with the hero's story and being able to recognize, in this case, Odysseus, the main cult hero of the Odyssey.
But haven't we already had him recognized a few times? Why do we have to do it again?
That's a good question.
Well, but the thing is, if you have an ascending scale of affection, everybody on your scale has to click one after the other. And in fact, for me, the encounter between Laertes and Odysseus. Wait, let me just do this.
No worries.
For me, the encounter between Odysseus and Laertes, the fact that it comes at the very end, implies that Laertes is even more important to Odysseus than his own wife. Or at least that's what the sequence is saying. And many people have come to me and said, why doesn't Odysseus trust Laertes? But that is making things a character-driven exercise. And in this medium, plot is just as important and sometimes more important than character. And what we need at the very end of the Odyssey is a testing of the character of Laertes by the plot. Odysseus, let's think of him as the agent of the plot here. He is the agent who tests the true feelings of Laertes. And instead of getting too personal about it, where we say, oh, this is out of character, or why doesn't the son trust the father? That's not really the question. The question is, does the plot trust the father? And it's the plot that's primarily testing Laertes. That's why it's so important that we see what the true feelings of Laertes are and how he reacts, just as Keith said, to Odysseus by way of recognizing who Odysseus is as a hero. So it all comes together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So
I like that.
can I ask then? I mean, if the plot is testing Laertes, I mean, is there a sense, do you think, that there's a multiform out there where Laertes doesn't get it?
Well,
No.
if anything, maybe the multiform would be that somebody else is, besides Odysseus, is testing Laertes for Odysseus. But here it's Odysseus himself who is the agent of the plot. But I could see Telemachus telling Laertes, or even Penelope telling Laertes.
Or even maybe who is in that third slot, which is the highest level of affection,
That's it.
maybe. Okay.
That's it.
Well, let's look at some of the responses that our community members had.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think one of the themes that came up in a few places was this idea that Odysseus doesn't just come out and say who he is because he has to reveal it in a gentle way, because he could startle his father, maybe, I don't know, put him over the edge. He's so old and frail, right?
No, I don't think. I understand the spirit in which that question was asked, because that really corresponds to our modern sensibilities about the psychology of the situation. But this is a different medium, and it's not a question of whether a character is considerate enough. It's more important that every character reveal who he or she really is.
Yeah, I mean, that's really cool, right? I'm trying to find, we have a comment here, which I thought was really interesting, that it actually wasn't just a way to test Laertes, but it was a way to test Odysseus, actually, that scene.
Well, yes, but sure, ultimately, Odysseus is tested too, by way of the right reaction. But in order for him to be tested that way, Laertes also has to be tested. And it's a chain reaction. You know how Aristotle says that the key to recognition in tragedy, he is thinking primarily of tragedy, but it works for epic as well, is that you have to intuit that the dots are being connected, that there's a progressive movement from being not close to somebody to being close to somebody. And Aristotle uses the word Filos, to be near and dear. And true recognition is when this process where things get warmed up, they're warming up as people are feeling closer and closer. And then you reach that point where, the recognition happens. And he also, because he's Aristotle, says that it can also work the other way around, where you think you know somebody, but you don't really. And when that alienation happens, it can be just as much of an eye-opener as when that spark that makes everybody realize why they're so close to each other, because there's identity X and identity Y. Those things can be seen as a procedure that can go both ways. And may I give a silly example? But in Kubrick's movie The Shining, when the Shelley Duvall figure finally realizes that her husband is stark raving mad, there are already series of alienating things, but that's when she clicks finally. And Aristotle would say, that's the moment of recognition, of anagnorisis, and that's certainly what is being built up to in Odyssey 24, where the beautiful poetics of space in the garden, where Odysseus is proving to his father step by step that he's the one who had been taken into that orchard when the father was raising the son, and that he knows where every tree is, he knows where every landmark is. Just as you reconstruct the geography of the garden, you reconstruct a relationship that has not existed for so many years, and then everything clicks. And that's the pleasure and the intellectual payoff too in this scene. And as I say, the fact that it happens at the very end suggests that the Odyssey as we have it places Laertes even higher in the ascending scale of affection that the hero experiences in this narrative than Penelope herself.
I mean, what are you thinking, Keith, in terms of the kind of response that Greg has had? I mean, about the idea of, Laertes taking that slot? or about the
Yeah.
location in the
Well,
garden.
I wonder, as Greg was talking and as I was thinking about this comment here that you were pointing to, I think I found it, the one by Laertes.
Yes.
I was thinking that, Odysseus has this chance to prove himself. I wonder if the testing of Odysseus doesn't have so much to do with Laertes as much as his kind of geographical mastery of the land, of the garden. We see something similar with his house when he gets back and he reasserts his presence in his home. But also there's the garden, and don't forget that cult heroes have gardens,
Right.
Not just a house. I mean, they kind of coincide in terms of cult realities. I think there's the shrine and the garden are together, but here we have them separated in the narrative in time. So it's another way for Odysseus to be coming home.
Yeah.
You know, what Keith just says really nails it, because yes, in the case of Odysseus and Penelope, that moment where all synapses are firing is the recognition that happens by way of a bed that the two characters know about. Then in the scene with Laertes, it's the garden.
Right.
And once again, all the synapses are now firing, and you have real contact, mentally, morally, emotionally, connectivity has happened.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this question actually made me think of a lot of, I'm not sure that they're helpful things, but new things that I hadn't really been thinking about. I mean, one, I started really thinking about the garden as a place of learning.
Oh, yes.
Right? And I think we're going to see that a lot in Filos. Like, I mean, of course we've talked about it, but somehow it really has struck me since this question.
Well, what if Laertes had died? Would we still have a scene where Odysseus goes to the garden and recognizes all the trees?
That's the thing. I mean, do we assume that he's a hero too? Like, that's one of the comments that someone has brought up, right?
Yeah.
Which is that he will show that now Odysseus fully understands the meaning of his father as a hero.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I suppose if Laertes
continuity.
had died, Odysseus would have met his father's ghost, probably.
That could be multiform, right?
In the garden.
But I can just see a modern version, the way a Hollywood director would want this to happen. Laertes would be dead already, and then Odysseus would still connect by way of knowing where every tree is.
Right.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Because these trees don't just grow where they grow, they've all been planted, and there's a cosmic logic to where everything is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing about a garden versus just any place in nature. When you have a garden, you have humanity and its culture interacting with nature. And the order that results is the same order that you have in a poem, the same order that you have in an idealized social structure. And what's the word? It's cosmos, it's cosmic.
Right. All right, can I raise something else? So, just from my own personal experience, now I'm reading in, okay? We'll just be straightforward. Thinking about the experiences I've had caring for relatives who were towards the end of their life and they don't remember. And I mean,
Yes.
certainly the ancient Greeks were conscious of
course,
of this. So, I mean, suddenly today, as I was thinking about these questions of last night, I was thinking about, I mean, there really is a chance that you come home and your father doesn't remember you at all.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So,
And
how poignant that is.
And you could make the argument that it's really Odysseus himself, the son, who is recapitulating every lesson he ever had from his father when his father took him day after day after day to visit the garden.
Right. So is he bringing his father back, right?
Yes, it's mutual, and that's the beauty of generations, is that the connectivity, which is not just to the father in the case of a son, but it's to all the ancestors in case of sons and daughters.
So the ancestors have to remember you too in the afterlife. Am I wrong?
It's reciprocal. It's mutual.
Yeah.
And I think that's something else that's beautifully conveyed in Odyssey 24.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, it's a great topic. So let's keep talking about that and thinking about that. But I'm aware of the time, so we should turn to our next question.
And there's so many interesting
Yeah,
questions and comments, and
did you
I
wanna
love
talk about
the
something else there?
engagement
Yeah.
in general. And even if here and there I seem to be disagreeing with some of our commentators, I want to express my appreciation to them and to the way they interact with other commentators, because that's what ultimately matters. And I may be stressing some things, but you out there are stressing other things that are very important to engage with.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is not the final conversation, right?
No.
That's the whole point.
No last word here.
Yeah. So let's think about hour 13, that discussion question. Do you have it up? So here's the question, Greg, as you posed it. Hesiodic poetry has much to say about dike in the long-term sense of justice. Homeric poetry has says hardly anything about justice. Is it because the question of justice does not apply to heroes of the Iliad and Odyssey? So, do you want to talk a little bit about why you chose this question?
Well, it's because some people might be tempted to say, the Iliad is so early that people aren't thinking of justice. Oh, yes, they are.
Yes, and that's actually one of the things that we have seen. And I mean, does that happen in your experience as educators in the classroom? I mean, do you think it matters that we read Hesiod afterwards? Would people still have that same impression if we read Hesiod before?
It's a tough one, and that's why I was so provocative with this question, because if we somehow think, well, first there was Homer, then there was Hesiod, then we're already misleading ourselves. There are poetic systems that have been coexisting all this time, and it's just that Homeric poetry stresses some things, and Hesiodic poetry stresses other things. And instead of saying some things and other things, I would even say Homeric poetry tells a story from A to B, and C and D, all the way to Z, whereas Hesiodic poetry will take point L, let's say, and will go L1, L2, L3, L4 vertically, or L-1, L-2, L-3 going up.
Can you unpack those L's?
Sure.
Is that okay?
I deliberately started with the letter L in the alphabet because it's right in the middle of the Roman alphabet. And sometimes learned people would play tricks by starting not with the start of the alphabet, ABC, like the ABCs of something, but in the middle of the alphabet, LMN. And that's where we get the word elementum, as in elementary.
Right.
So it's a mystical way of understanding order by not being obvious, not starting at the beginning. So that's why I cleverly started with L, the letter L. But all I'm saying is that, okay, let's take any other letter. Let's take B. That Hesiodic poetry will explore not only how you go from A to B to C to D, but as you look at B all by itself, we also look at variations like B1, B2, B3, and let's go up rather than down vertically, B-1, B-2, B-3. And here I'm exploring a vertical axis, and that's what Hesiodic poetry does. It explores how you organize in your mind what a hero is.
Okay, so that's what you're talking about. So in this case, I mean, I think you're really thinking about the generations, right? The discussion about the generations, and about how it's sort of like looking at the hero through a prism, right? You're like diffracting all the different characteristics of it. Things that are all there together, but you're finding a way to look at them separately.
Exactly.
Okay.
And what's nice about that is that you start asking questions that you wouldn't be asking if you were just going from A to B to C to D, etc. And you're saying, well, now let's see, is Achilles behaving as a just person at this moment when he's executing prisoners of war? Maybe not. Is Achilles being an ideally just person when he presides over the athletic contests in Iliad 23? I would answer yes. But how can he do it? He can do it more easily there because he's behaving like a cult hero rather than an epic hero. And the list goes on and on. So it's a matter of looking at sometimes the same thing from different dimensions, horizontal versus vertical.
I mean,
for
I think
example.
one thing that's really interesting about the view of the hero that we get from Hesiod is what you have described for us, right? Which is this aspect of the hero that he's very extreme. And so the hero is very extreme in terms of decay, and that's made explicit in the different characteristics of the hero through the different generations, right? Sometimes they're characterized by hubris, and sometimes by decay.
And it helps you organize how you look at the hero when you go back to the Iliad and Odyssey then and say, well, how is the hero behaving? What are my moral reactions to this? And we really should look at Homer and Hesiod, these culture heroes of two very different media, as working together. That's certainly the way people in the 5th century, as exemplified by Herodotus,
Let me try this out on you. So, Homeric poetry is the test. It's testing you to see if you can recognize what's going on with justice. And Hesiodic poetry is the answer key.
That's right. It's
and
the key.
You read the key, and then you go back to the test and see how you did.
That's beautiful. That's exactly it.
I like it.
And the modern world says, how can you talk about the cosmos by telling a story? Well, you can do it by doing the Iliad and the Odyssey, which are two A to Z narratives that have all the answers, but the answers aren't spelled out. Then you have to do cross sections. Then you use other media to re-examine how you went from A to B to C to D, etc. And going back to Herodotus, he simply says, if you know your Homer and Hesiod, you're educated. And that's what I love to tell people, as you, dear Claudia, and you, dear Keith, know, when people say, can you recommend a book for me that just explains to me the gods? There are so many of them I don't understand, and the narrative of the Iliad and the Odyssey confuses me. I said, oh no, you don't. You read the Iliad and the Odyssey again and again.
Right.
Because in this song culture, there you have the background. The Iliad and the Odyssey are the background. Just internalize it. And to help you internalize it, there's Hesiod, where you get wonderful vertical perspectives that otherwise go horizontal. And then we'll give you other historical bits and pieces like Philostratus and other media as represented by Philostratus's medium to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about Philostratus and the scene in the garden and Hesiod, I mean, I guess it just makes me really think about, I don't know how to say it, modes of instruction or, I mean, there's something that's, I think, more explicitly didactic, right?
Yeah.
About Hesiod.
Well,
no?
Except
what?
when people say,
tell me why wrong.
Well,
I love it.
Okay, if you look up Hesiod in, I don't know, some popular medium, you're often told, oh, this is didactic poetry.
Right.
And that implies that the Iliad and the Odyssey are entertainment, or goodness knows what is implied. They're all didactic. It's just they're different forms of learning.
Well, hold on.
That goes along with my test and answer key metaphor, just by the way. Go ahead.
Okay, yes. So exactly, I do think it's a little bit more explicit because, I mean, like if we think about myth and mythology as being didactic, right? But we also think about the response that Achilles has to the stories that are told to him. It's not, hey, do this, hero X did this. It's, I'm going to tell you a story, and then you're going to use it to figure out what you need to do, right? As opposed to Hesiod saying, this is how you pee in a river, or don't stand here, right? I mean, that's very explicit instruction, right?
Well, yes, but you see, they're parts of the same cosmos. It's all part of a very unified and organized, let's just say cosmic system.
Yes.
And it's just that when you and I hear a story, we think we're just supposed to be entertained, and that's it.
No.
But oh no. Can I put it this way? We moderns love to ask questions like, well, what is the meaning of life? Well, the meaning of life for ancient Greek song culture is the Iliad, is the Odyssey, is the Hesiodic works and days and other Hesiodic compositions. That's the meaning.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how you slice it.
What are you thinking, Keith?
I was just thinking about something else that Greg had said about the shield of Achilles and how it is kind of a clue that the Iliad is a test.
Oh yeah.
It says here are stories that are ongoing, unresolved, that are about justice.
Mm-hmm.
People are trying to figure them out.
Right.
That's kind of a meta comment on the nature of Homeric poetry.
And here's another way to say it, is the Hesiodic shield, which we are not studying.
Yes.
But here's another way to say it. The shield of Achilles, as we're studying it, is almost a wonderful learning tool for people who say, oh, I'm not very good at understanding a story. Okay, you don't understand that kind of storytelling? Here's a pictorial way of saying the same thing, and here's a snapshot. Here is an even more visual way of saying what the Iliad says. That's what the shield of Achilles is. It's a picture of the hero's world. Hello, I'm Achilles and this is my world. That's what it is, and it's the gods who make the picture for him. So that legitimates things even more. But I'm saying, even if we think of ourselves, oh, I can't visualize all that well, other people are better than I am. Well, the Iliad and the Odyssey give you hundreds of different ways of visualizing what is a very consistent message.
Yeah, okay, let's talk about that, because, I want to point to the comment by Elena Sakura, who, brings up the depiction of Dike on the shield.
Yes.
And also we have another participant who has brought up sort of depictions of, I'm trying to find the exact passage where she's talking about, of everyday life, right? And so for me, I can't find the comment right now, but I was thinking of images like sort of the metaphors, the nature metaphors, the animal metaphors,
yes,
right?
Yes,
so is that
yes.
what you're talking about? I mean, so that's different ways of visualizing the relationships between.
Yes. And Claudia, one big distinction between Hesiodic and Homeric poetry is that Hesiodic poetry is talking about the present, as if we were living in some timeless here and now.
Right.
And the Iliad and the Odyssey are, for the most part, unashamedly heroic age, as far away from us as we can imagine. These are different people than we are. They can lift a rock that even two of the strongest men today couldn't lift, et cetera, et cetera,
Right.
et cetera. So, when I'm saying what is the meaning of life, Hesiodic poetry will explore that by talking about the story of Prometheus. Prometheus is not so much relevant to the heroes of the distant past, he's relevant to us. Why is there human suffering? Why do we have disequilibrium in our lives?
Right.
And then the whole problem of Hesiod and his brother. Why are people unjust to each other? Why do people cheat each other, even when they should be loving each other? Why are there disappointments? Why this? Why that? So it's the whole spectrum of human experience. But in Hesiodic poetry, because it is vertical, you don't have to worry about a story from the heroic age. It can be stories from any age.
Right. Okay.
So that's very
No. I feel like I'm
diachronic.
understanding it in a different way now.
Yeah. And it really is, I would say, education in Greek song culture 101 and in wisdom in general. That's what you get when you read Homer and Hesiod together, if I can refer to these beautiful traditions by way of two names of two culture heroes who stand for the totality of this experience. And that's the way Herodotus, as we'll see, who is considered the quote-unquote father of history, thinks of Homer and Hesiod. So what better way for us to say to the participants out there, you're getting a crash course in all of Greek civilization, and you're learning to be educated the way Greeks in the 5th century thought they could be educated just by exposure to Homeric and Hesiodic poetry.
Yeah. So hooray for everyone who's made it this far, right? Because it's
Oh,
such a
yes.
beautiful thing.
Oh yes, and the fact that you've made it this far is not, part of the way. In a way, it's already all the way, because we've already got all the messages. It's just that the medium repeats itself and repeats itself and repeats itself in an ever exciting, novel way. So each time the repetition happens, it's still new. But you out there who've come this far already have it. So just stick with it.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so let's turn to some of the other questions in our discussion board. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So here are three that we talked about, maybe touching on briefly. One is why is Achilles still in Hades? A thread called hospitality, and another one, Odyssey 11, 134, one verse, two translations. We don't have much time left, so maybe we could just do 2-minute responses to these,
Sure.
Greg?
Sure.
2-minute versions. So the first one, let's talk about why Achilles is still in Hades. Since Achilles, and I just want to say this is from, I'm so sorry I'm mangling this, Laertes? I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm sure it's beautiful. So here's the question. Since Achilles has become a cult hero and is Albios, why is he still in Hades, which is a transitional status? Shouldn't he be in Elysium or in the Islands of the Blessed, which are considered to be sort of the final resting place for the immortalized hero?
It's a very good question, but the thing is that the narrative, as we have it, hedges its bets. Yes, he's in Hades, but then when he turns around and goes off, he goes to the meadow of Asphodel, which is another one of these private paradises that have been assigned to this very, very versatile hero who has so many different places of immortalization after death. So the meadow of Asphodel in that narrative is a little signature for afterlife. And the thing is, given that Hades is transitional, we might think, well, transitional, how? Well, it's dark, it's not illuminated, so you grope around for different signals and messages. And the nice thing is that as a transitional something, it can morph into very many different things. It's just that you start with the concept of Hades, which is dark, but then the moment you go there, there's another step, which would be that post-transitional phase.
Yeah, so are transitional places also, let's say, not a problem for a pan-Hellenic tradition? Because then you don't have to decide where they end up. Like, it could be, you know, if your local city-state has an idea about.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And they all have different ideas. They all have different ideas. So may I put it this way? I'll use anachronistic and inaccurate terms, but heaven has too many variations to visualize for Homeric poetry. There are just too many ways of imagining a beatific afterlife, whereas the fact of death is pretty universal. So the darkness, the place of transition, well, anybody can talk about that.
Right, dark is dark everywhere, right?
Yes.
I see what you're saying, beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's turn to the question about hospitality. Can you just say I know this is brief because this is such a huge topic.
Yeah.
Maybe you could just speak to the significance or the level of significance of the idea of the relationship between the host and the guest, about the importance of welcoming someone appropriately. How important is that in this culture?
It's very important, but it's never 50-50 because let's face it, this culture is very hierarchical. So the higher ranking member of an interaction has to give more. And you know that French expression, noblesse oblige, nobility obliges. That has all sorts of negative spins that go with it, but to try to idealize it as much as possible in a hierarchical situation, the person who's higher ranking must make the first move.
Okay.
And that's how the Christian concept of grace really comes about, because God is so obviously higher up. the divinity has to make the first move, and then we have to be very grateful.
Right. Got it.
And just it occurs to me that this scene with Eumaeus and Odysseus also fits into the paradigm, not just of hospitality, but perhaps more importantly for the plot of who recognizes Odysseus or not. Even without really consciously recognizing Odysseus,
Yeah.
Eumaeus is very sympathetic to Odysseus.
And
Effectively, I think, it doesn't
Right.
recognize him.
And of course, the etiquette that true hospitality is such that you don't ask questions about who somebody is, because they may be just a beggar, but they may be the lost prince. In this particular scene, what's really exciting is that they're both lost princes, because even the swineherd used to be a prince before he was kidnapped. So it's one of those things where it's a good thing that everybody assumed the best of somebody else. But the idea that you don't ask questions and you simply offer hospitality is such a powerful thing that even in today's Greek society, it's what hospitality is all about. If you're a decent person and you see somebody who is a refugee, you don't ask questions. The refugee may turn out to be somebody who rewards you, or the only reward you may ever get is a feeling that you assume the best of the other human. It's a beautiful concept, and for Greeks, it's Zeus who is the primary representative, because he has the title Zeus Xenios, Zeus who is the god of hospitality. Mm-hmm. So it's not just being nice, it's a moral imperative.
Right, I mean, and it's the kind of thing, so this is something that Lenny Milner has shown in his book, The Anger of Achilles. Getting this wrong is the kind of thing that can incur Manus, which is the same kind of wrath that we see. Yeah.
And as Lenny says beautifully, that's a cosmic sanction. Even if there's no police around, the divine apparatus sees it.
So the cosmos is at stake when you are doing this right or
and
wrong.
That's the divine sanction, the cosmic sanction, I like to call it, because it's the whole universe revolts if somebody is morally amiss.
Yeah, it's an amazing concept, right?
Now, I'm not trying to idealize Hellenes, because they're just as capable of doing every kind of social wrong that other societies do, but it's a tremendous heritage that there is this basic sense of morality that as transcended religious systems, you have it in pre-Christian and Christian social frameworks, and it's basically cultural as well as moral.
Right, gorgeous. And think about getting it wrong, right? I mean, there's so many times you read the Odyssey, and it's about people getting it wrong over and over again, right?
Oh my goodness!
So,
yeah.
All right. In just our last few minutes, let's see if we can do one or two more. So, where's the other one we wanted to talk about? What did I forget? Oh, gosh. Let's save this one. Talking about
go for it.
Coming death from out of the sea, right? I mean, that's a big one.
But it's a big one. It's a big one, but it still boils down
death
to something. I think I can take a shot at it in 30 seconds.
Okay.
Which is psychologists talk about this, students of myth talk about this. Coincidence of opposites.
Uh-huh.
Coincidence of opposites is where if you push and push and push at one extreme, when you're contrasting two things like east and west.
Okay.
If you push the concept of west far enough, you wind up on the east.
Okay.
And similarly, if you push the concept of night far enough, you wind up with day again.
Okay.
And so a cyclical way of thinking, it is such that almost anything that you think of as irreconcilable opposites can be reconciled. And that's why Odysseus can die as far away from the sea as possible, but also right next to the sea.
Right. Okay, the two variants. I see.
There are two variants, and that prophecy simply shows you that there are two seemingly opposite ways for his outcome.
Right.
But it all adds up to a unified message.
Right, and that brings us back to our first question we discussed with the meeting between Laertes and Odysseus, because you think some of the multiforms about Odysseus, about how he dies, it's because the son and father don't recognize each other,
Yes.
right? So it is,
Yes,
I think,
yes.
super significant.
Well, you're right. Is in one version of the Odysseus narrative, he gets killed by his own son.
Right.
Not Telemachus, thank goodness.
Right, exactly.
Not that variant. But these variations just show you that that all sorts of negative things can happen as well as positive.
Okay.
Just as there are versions of the Penelope story where she is unfaithful to Odysseus and cheats on him with every one of the suitors.
Oh, really? Everyone?
Yeah. Now, admittedly, the perpetrator of, or I should say, the perpetuator, not
Yes.
perpetrator of this myth, is a relatively late figure, and so some people think it's a waggish fiction. But I've been around so long with mythological systems that I would be willing to bet, although I can't prove it, that version is very much part of the story. And look at the name Clytemnestra, which means famous for her suitors.
Right.
Famous for, may I put it this way, all her boyfriends.
Right.
And that is an epithet that suits not just Clytemnestra because she cheats on Agamemnon, but also Helen, and the various myths having to do with her being unfaithful to her husband.
Right.
And so.
And of course, there's Penelope, obviously.
And then Penelope is the foil for that kind of behavior in our Odyssey, but not in other narratives.
All right. Well, we're going to have to sign off for today. This was a really productive conversation, I think. So more next week. I don't think we have anything.
But could I add just one more thing?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, please. Go.
No, which is think
you
of Penelope's dream, where why does she cry when the eagle, who later reveals himself as Odysseus, when the eagle destroys all the geese, she cries over it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there must be some feelings of ambiguity because even the dream says that the geese are the suitors.
Right. And so we can point people towards also Olga Lavanyuk's talk with us about her dream.
Beautiful book called The Eve of the
Eve of the
Feast.
Festival, yeah.
The Eve of the Festival.
And we have a video with Olga where she talks about the dream. So, okay, so much to talk about.
Yes.
But next week we're going to have to move on to our next
we have
2
to move
hours.
on.
So,
But Keith and Claudia and I, we can all express again our encouragement of the wonderful community that is following along.
Yes, and Greg, next 2 weeks you'll be in Greece, actually. So we might have a slightly different format. We're doing a lot of experimenting this time around, but I think it's fun.
But I hope I can, shall we say, beam in somehow.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Good, thank
Bye.
you. Bye.